At the White House last night, the president stepped up his attacks on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, claiming she's blocking new funding for the Paycheck Protection Program for small business.
Nancy Pelosi is blocking it. She sits in her house in San Francisco, overlooking the ocean, and she doesn't want to come back. She doesn't want to come back.
That is where we began when I spoke with the Speaker yesterday. Madam Speaker, thank you very much for joining us. Over the last 48 hours, President Trump has leveled a series of tweets and attacks against you, calling you weak, crazy, away on vacation, and more importantly, he's accused you of costing Americans jobs by blocking new funds for the Paycheck Protection Program. What's your response?
Frankly, I don't pay that much attention to the president's tweets against me. As I've said, he's a poor leader. He's always trying to avoid responsibility and assign blame. But putting that aside, because we have to put that aside, what we really need now is, as we go forward with this interim package, of course, we all support the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. We help shape it in a bipartisan way. But we want to make sure that it's reaching all of America's small businesses, and we also want to make sure that it's operating in a community where our police and fire, our healthcare workers, our doctors, nurses, our teachers are being compensated for and not fired, and that's why we're asking for the additional funds in the package, as well as for hospitals so that we can do testing, testing, testing.
Yeah, you've even got some of your own Democrats who are saying, those other programs are important. We should negotiate those in a new package, but it's important to pass the PPP funding right now by unanimous consent. Why not do that?
Well, I don't know who's saying that, but I will say overwhelmingly my caucus, and we're working closely with the Senate Democrats, know that we have an opportunity and an urgency to do something for our hospitals, our teachers and firefighters and the rest right now. And then we are preparing for our next bill. But everything we've done, 3 bills in March, were all bipartisan. This interim package will be 2, and the businesses will have the money in a timely fashion. So again, you may find some who may say something, but overwhelmingly the caucus is, let's get as much as we can for those who are helping to fight this fight so that we can soon open our economy.
How close are you to getting that package done? I know you've been talking to Secretary Mnuchin.
Yeah. Yes, we're close. Again, we have common ground. Our CARES 1 package was something that we worked together in a bipartisan way, springing from that and making it more effective and stronger so that more people are benefiting from it and protected by it. I think we're very close to agreement.
And assuming you close this negotiation down, how is Congress going to get this done? I know that Washington, D.C. is still under stay-at-home orders. You've got a lot of members who can't travel. Are you prepared to go forward with the proxy voting proposal that's been put forward by Rules Committee Chairman Mr. McGovern?
Yes, he and Congresswoman, Madam Chair Zoe Lofgren of the House Administration Committee were tasked to see what we could do remotely, whether it was by dint of the Constitution, the security, and the technology. They came back with this recommendation on proxy voting. We want to make sure, though, that we can do it in a bipartisan way. But nonetheless, to your point of reaching an agreement, we did reach agreement on CARES 1. We have an example of how we went forward in a bipartisan way, even though there was a person on the other side of the aisle who was insisting on not avoiding unanimous consent. We have a template. We've done it once. We can do it again. And it's easier if we can have proxy voting. But in order to have proxy voting, you also have to have a vote to change the rules of the House to do that. And we'd rather do that in a bipartisan way.
All of this, of course, is against the backdrop of these staggering jobs losses over the last 4 weeks, more than 22 million Americans. And that's why you're seeing these protests build up across the country saying, boy, we have to reopen as quickly as possible. Do you think that the president's guidelines to the governors are appropriate and and states are ready to begin that process of opening up?
I wouldn't exaggerate the protest across the country. There are some in some places, largely where there's a Democratic governor, but I think of it largely as a distraction, and the president's embrace of it as a distraction from the fact that he has not appropriately done testing, treatment, contact tracing, and quarantine. So, but just to move on from that, that's why we want the small businesses to thrive, and that's why that was such an important part of the CARES package, so that we could, that is the lifeblood of our economy, the creation of jobs, the creation of capital, and the rest. But again, the key that opens the door to the economy is testing, testing, testing. We haven't done it right. If, as Dr. Fauci says, if we proceed in the right way, then we can do that. But we haven't.
Yeah, Dr. Fauci did say the other day that he thought that if we moved in this direction right now, there's enough testing out there for phase one. You clearly don't agree.
Well, no, he's saying if we proceed. I'm saying we haven't proceeded. That's why we're saying let's proceed in that way with testing. You just can't test. You have to test, treat if people are diagnosed to have it, and contact tracing so that it isn't spread, and quarantine so that people are shelter in place for as long as it takes. And how wonderful the American people are. They understand that we have to have a scientific, evidence-based approach to how we go forward, because we can't just go out there and then find out that we went out too soon. And that has to be calibrated, scientifically based, not politically based or as a distraction to how we should go forward.
You're dealing with this every single day. You have access to the best information in the country, right, and the world. What's your best sense right now of when we're going to get back to some semblance of normal here in the United States? I noticed one of your California mayors, Eric Garcetti of Los Angeles, said no big crowd events until 2021. Do you agree with that?
Well, everybody has to make their determination in their own community, but it has to be based on, again, the evidence and the data of what will work in those communities. Your previous question about the president, let me just say about that. The president has established these guidelines. First, he said, I have sole authority to open up states or close states. The next thing he said was, it's up to the governors. When the governors have said they want to follow the guidelines, he's now criticizing them by siding with people who are objecting to their following the guidelines, the governors following the guidelines that have been put forward by the Center for Disease Control and others. So it is, I don't know that anybody can give you a timeline. We're prayerful that there will be a cure soon, that there will be a vaccine. That will take longer. That's really the answer. And it is, again, the sooner we commit to shelter in place across the board, testing, shelter in place, treatment, contact tracing, that's the path to opening the economy and putting people back to work. But again, I praise the American people for their appreciation for what it means to their health, the health of their families and their loved ones, to make the sacrifices necessary. But we all want to get back to work so that people have the livelihoods as well as their lives protected.
In a conference call with your caucus earlier this week, you reportedly said, I'm afraid what the president might do during this period. What is it you're afraid of?
I'm afraid that he's going to act on the basis of what he's acted before. It's a hoax. It's magically going to disappear. And that's why I sent out the letter that I did after Easter, because Easter gave me time for reflection and prayerfulness about, okay, we don't want to keep harping on what he did wrong, because he failed. He's failed in the testing and the rest, and it's a hoax, and it's going to magically disappear. That's not based on science. This isn't magical. This is scientific. And so I said, if he continues to predicate the action that we take on a false premise, then we're in further danger. And his earlier delay and denial caused deaths. And so it's very important that we walk the line that is close to evidence, data, science, as we go forward, and not whimsy, magic, hoax allegations, and placing blame instead of taking responsibility. And again, I was careful about this. I didn't, when people said to me this and that, I said, that's time for an after-action review. We'll go over all of that. Except he was drawing strength from in his own view of what his falsehoods were gaining him. And we cannot fight a pandemic. We cannot open up to our economy based on falsehoods.
Madam Speaker, thanks very much for your time today. Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.